Welcome to the Teaching and Learning with iPads Tech Talk. We want to start off just introducing ourselves. So my name is Esther Chang, and I'm a digital curriculum assistant.
I'm Jancy Lucia, and I'm an assistant for blended learning. I'm Elizabeth Riley. I'm also a digital curriculum assistant.
And I'm Christine Boylan. I'm the director of the Language Learning Center.
So we recently came back from an iPad conference, and we learned how to integrate the iPad into the classroom and how that transforms the classroom. And so to start off, we wanted to show you guys how technology has really influenced the classroom. And luckily, we found a BuzzFeed article that's titled 15 Things We Did at School That Future Students Will Not Understand. Okay. So the first one, copy this from an overhead projector. Secretly passing other hand notes in class. Now everyone can text each other secretly. Writing on a chalkboard. Bryn Mar's still working on that. We like to keep things traditional here. Let's see. Textbook covers from grocery bags.
Oh my God.
It's audibly satisfying. And tearing off the edges of paper. I thought that was more satisfying. Check out library books with the due stamp on the back. We still do that. It still works, right? It's okay. Watch educational programming supported by viewers like us. Carrying around the huge notebooks. Not everything's in laptops or your iPad and all of that great stuff. This one, that's kind of sad. No one would ever answer my book fair. You guys remember book fairs? This guy's having fun. Looking up words in the spell checker. It's an ingenious device. And this one, I never did this, but. All right. So now we want to talk about this model with Chris is going to explain.
So basically, when we move from, I'll use a coin term, when we move from kind of analog teaching materials to technologically based teaching materials, there's kind of a set progression that people often make as they're transitioning into using technology and using it effectively in teaching. So the first phase is substitution. That usually involves just a one-to-one correspondence. You had your students reading from a physical textbook, and you move them on to PDFs. The second phase is augmentation. And in augmentation, you're basically repeating that same skill, that same learning experience, but you do have some functional enhancements from the technology. So at this point, if we're taking our reading example, perhaps we're using an app that will allow us to highlight that PDF reading. The third phase is where we really begin to reinvent and reimagine our activities. And we do get that higher level of learning. Because in the modification phase, we can add, in addition to those functional benefits, we can add something that really does help enhance the learning experience. So if I'm going to use my PDF example again, maybe now, in addition to that PDF reading, I have an embedded dictionary to help me understand new vocabulary. I may have an interactive quiz embedded in it so that I have reading comprehension questions along the way to increase my engagement. I might have access to images or other media material related to what I'm reading that I wouldn't have before. And in the final stage, I am totally redefining and reimagining that task that I had. So now, rather than simply reading from a textbook, I'm challenging the students to, say, create a multimedia project based on the content of that book. So these are the phases. And Esther, where is my other link? Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, thank you. How legible is this? So here are some typical tasks: note-taking, researching, presentation, content distribution, authoring documents, and file management. And this chart kind of takes us through these different stages of how you can improve the student learning outcomes that you achieve by moving from a simple substitution of some kind of digital format for the old paper format through these phases where you're getting something quite different at the end that hopefully is a richer learning experience for students. And I've jotted down a couple of examples that we might encounter here at our level. So, for instance, let's say, I notice Corinne is here, so Corinne, I'll pick on you. Corinne's been working for years on developing various electronic lab materials. So she wanted to move from the traditional lab where she gave live demonstrations of activities, students perhaps had readings related to it, would come to the lab. But Corinne spent a lot of time, doing demos and then collecting paper-written lab reports. So how can that be both more productive for her in terms of her time, as well as a better learning experience for our students? So if we take something like that science lab report and we go through these steps. In the substitution, you can basically say, rather than a handwritten lab report, it's just a straight word process report. Students print it, they hand it in. There's really no functional change between that and the old paper system. Under augmentation, a student might take that report, use grammar and spell checking, maybe some cutting and pasting to format things, but they're still basically printing and handing it out. So once again, some functional improvement there, but not a real difference in terms of the learning outcome that you can expect. On the other hand, on that modification stage with a lab report, you could have students who include spreadsheets, graphs, tables. They could be using email or other collaborative tools to work with partners, and then hand in that report electronically. Or for us, in our context, submit it in Moodle, for instance. And then in the final redefinition stage, that lab work could include Skyping experts in the field, collaborating via blogs or wikis with lab partners, and sharing their results on the World Wide Web, so not limiting themselves to their class, but moving beyond that. So, in the sciences, that would be an example. For the social sciences, and for me as a foreign language person, if, let's say I had a mapping exercise I wanted to do with my students. In the old days, it might involve a map, an atlas, or printed maps. And I could simply substitute that for Google Maps, right? So instead of having the big old dusty books or the big scrolls of maps, we could simply go online, go to Google Maps, and have those. But there's really nothing extra we're getting from that. Under augmentation, we could use Google Earth as opposed to Google Maps, and then we have the ability to measure distances and some extra functionality to use in the course of studying those maps. Under modification, we can use some of the extra benefits of Google Earth by employing some of the layers that are possible there, like using Panoramio or the 360 Cities layer to research locations more fully than you could simply by looking at a two-dimensional map. And under redefinition, we can create a narrative a Google Earth guided tour and share that online with a broader audience. So you can kind of see the programmatic benefits there. And for the people from humanities programs, your basic reading assignment. Rather than reading from a textbook, you can simply have students read that PDF. And there are lots of benefits to that. I'm not trying to denigrate this substitute level, because let's face it, at that point, there's an advantage in convenience, there's no loss, it's environmentally sound, you're not expending a lot of paper to print these copies. So, there are a lot of benefits to simply this straight technical substitution, but we can get even more out of that. So, rather than reading via PDF, if we had students read that same text via iBook, they would have access to that built-in dictionary, to highlighting tools, to the ability to take embedded notes, the ability to gloss things in that text. So, once again, they're still reading. Sure, they could have done those things on paper, but it's a little more immediate and directed via this iBook tool. Under modification, you could have students using Google Docs to collaborate and, let's say, produce a podcast based on what they're reading, or a graphic novel using an app like Comic-like. And under redefinition, you could go in a variety of different ways. You could have Skype interviews. You could have, map locations that are referred to in the text. You can have students create tweets of the plot narrative from whatever they're reading. So, you can go in an infinite number of directions and add an element of creativity and increased resonance of that material for the students. So this tends to be the movement that people take as they're beginning to use technology, and then really enhancing that use for a greater learning experience.
So now as we transition to the next part of our activity, I guess, just turn to the person next to you and discuss any number of these questions, or a couple of these, and see where you get as we start passing out the iPads. And if you have one, print this out, and we'll direct you to where to get it.
And for the administrators in the room, if you want to discuss, the last question about workflow, think about ways you can enhance either communication or some kind of productivity by better using technology for the kinds of things you need to do within your work.
Are you guys?
That's the problem. Is that you go to like start the class.
Alright, is everyone in? Is everyone waiting for the instructor? Yeah? Okay. So this is a program that was shown in one of the workshops, and I loved it. It kind of reminds me of the clicker system, but it's a more interactive experience. So what's on the projector is my screen, and you guys are going to have a slightly different view. Okay? Alright, so now I'm going to start.
Can you explain what the clicker the audience response system is that we're currently using at Burma? Because some folks there might not be aware of that. Do you have a comparison to this?
So the clicker system is basically everyone in the classroom sees a kind of like a remote type of thing, and the professor displays like a quiz or multiple choice questions. And what happens with the system is once the answers are in, once the answers are clicked in, you can see how the class did immediately. Does that make sense? Wow. Right? So this is kind of like that, but it's a more interactive experience.
So it's anonymous?
Yes. Yeah. So something cool about this is that I can display your answers on the projector, or I can view them immediately, but everything's anonymous until after the session. If the professor wants to view your answers, then you can go back and check your answer. Is that cool? Yeah. Okay. So I kind of already explained what this is. And this is also through Google Drive, so you can access your session anywhere you are, which is pretty awesome. So first question, how many siblings do you have? So on your screen you should see none, 1, 2, 3, so just answer. And then what's really cool about this is that I can see how many people have responded already. So does anyone have the sign-in sheet? Anyone else? How many people?
You had 15
registered.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. So I guess everyone who has already responded. So right now, I hid the responses, but I can view them if it lets me. So there you go. Everything's anonymous, but I can, and you guys are changing your answers.
I was curious if people would do it for
Yeah, so that's what's cool. But I don't see it do it.
It's okay. I figured you. So everything's anonymous, but later on I can go back and check what you guys did. And I'm actually going to lock your answers so I can do that. So something cool about this is that you can upload images and videos, like for instance, another BuzzFeed reference. This is what siblings fight about.
Why are you always late?
Everything is about you.
Alright.
So you can bring in like blended learning material, just like videos in the classroom, and it's pretty awesome. Let's see. Next question. Where are you from? So on your screen, you can point to where you're from.
Using the red dot.
Oh, wait, 1 second. So I can see all your answers.
Just touch it.
Yeah, just touch it.
And drag it.
Yeah.
We'll drag the red dot.
Isn't that fun? Yep. So right now I'm going to lock your answers. Next question. Point to your ideal vacation spot. Just one. Oh wait, I didn't hide it. So this is I think it's a really cool way to have that interactive experience with students. And I think, okay, I'm gonna lock it because you guys are bad. So I think this is a really cool way to get people to participate in the lecture. And I think it'll motivate those who are more shy to speak up because everyone's doing something. You're not alone. So it's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so this is a free response question. What is your favorite book? And you can just type it into your iPads right now.
Quick one.
Quick.
You could just say that too. The free response.
Four responses. You guys are slow. Come on. I'm mean.
It doubled as soon as you yelled.
All right, so I'm just gonna accept those who have responded, and again, I can share with you guys what everyone has said. The giving tree, nice. Okay. So that's a pretty cool thing, and again, it's anonymous. So answer this question. For this response, it's only a numerical value, so don't try to put too many or too little, or just put whichever numerical value. You guys,
You should just estimate. Use it. Actually, estimate. Just put
Yeah, put an
numbers.
estimate.
If you're all right, it's not as strong.
Yeah.
Just see what happens.
We're all wrong.
It's a trick question.
Yeah. It's a trick.
All right, let's see how many. 9 responses. All right, I'm going to lock. So I'm going to show what you guys responded. And since this is a numerical response, it can give you a grade of everyone's responses. And it's great because it's actually around 100. It's 100. So the professor can see if the majority of the class is on the same page, and then who's like outlining.
And it even provides an automatic average. That's why the number is there.
Yeah, it's a really cool function.
I say in classes when I've seen this used, a lot of times faculty will start saying maybe won't give what the right answer is immediately, but start getting people to discuss. Okay, you guys, who said this? You guys figure out, why was it you said that? You said this, and then have a discussion, and then later review.
Yeah.
What do you use to set that up? Is that
To set it up.
well? So in a PowerPoint presentation, you would create a slide that says, 12 plus whatever, but you wouldn't get the interactive response.
So the program does it automatically. I have no idea.
Okay, no, that's my question.
Yeah.
There's basically a dashboard where you choose the type of question you're asking, multiple choice, fill in, etc. And then you're basically given a text box in which you type the question you want to ask. So it's very easy, very intuitive.
So then do you choose how you want the information to be displayed? Like you want it to be displayed this way, or you want it to be
It depends on the type of question you ask.
so depending on the question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so this was a numerical response, so it gives you this grid, but other texts, like the free response that you just did out of the favorite book, it'll just show you the text.
And then you put a picture.
Well, like it's
freemium.
freemium.
Make a picture there.
So it's
I just put it there. Yeah.
Professional license for educators, it's $100 a year or $12 a year.
Yeah.
So there's another similar website called Polls for
Poll Everywhere.
Poll Everywhere. Thank you.
And I think Poll Everywhere, the students pay. There's another one called Learning Analytics. There's several of them.
Yeah, that's one thing, like, there are so many apps that can do similar things. So it's sort of choosing the best.
Yeah, there's never only one app to do what you want to do. Usually it's having to choose between, quite frankly, literally dozens.
So the way you guys choose this one is superior in some way.
It was just presented at the conference, and we thought it was a pretty awesome.
And we're using a free 30-day premium trial.
But the basic package, the only thing that doesn't have is obviously more space for your presentations, but it doesn't have like the drawing abilities and the drag things that we did with the World Map. But multiple choice and like text response and number response, that's available with the basic, the free package.
And Jen, can you import your own PowerPoint presentation?
I don't think so.
I thought you could, you could import your own slides, like 10 files or something with the free.
Well, through the Google Drive, I think. So did everyone draw their happy face? No? Oh, well, too bad. Swag? Very creative, guys. Can I go? So this is a pretty fun, I thought it was really fun. Oh, I really like these. I'm going to save it. Next question. Graph this. So another function, this has a graph. So for a question like this, as an instructor, I don't think I would show everyone's responses. So what I did,
You should.
yeah. Okay, I'll show you guys.
Do another happy face.
Right? Well, I guess I wouldn't show you guys, so I provided the right answer on the next slide, right? But let's see what you guys did. Oh, good job. Close, close, close. That's close too. I like that one. You guys did a great job. So let's say I'm in the middle of a presentation and I just feel like the sudden urge to ask you guys a top question. I can do that with this. So over here, there's an option to ask a quick question, and these are the different types of questions I can ask. So I'm going to do a yes or no, and it should pop up on your screen. And I'm going to ask you if you guys like Eric. All right. I kind of want to say. Oh, it's cool. It's cool. So that's the end of my session, and I'm gonna save it. iPad Tech Talk. Save session, and then I'm going to go back to check everyone's answer so I can actually see who doesn't like it. I won't do that. I'm kidding. So I go to all my sessions, and this is today's session. And so now I can see everyone's responses. So all of your names pop out, and I can see what your response was. And then I can sort it by name or by response. And then this will give me a really good idea on how the whole class is doing as a whole, and also individual.
So, do all the participants have to have an iPad?
No, actually, people can use my laptop. Yeah, Jenny, or any type of internet. Yeah, it's not actually an app.
So then is it an Apple app though, or not? So if you have Android or laptop, PC laptop,
You
they'll
need
interact,
an internet connection.
Yeah.
and they'll cooperate in the same session.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
just
a
also
Google account, which
yeah.
is key. That's what's
So that's it.
So for the questions that required finger dragging, picture drawing, PC.
You can do it with your mouse. You can draw with your mouse.
Yeah, I did it with my finger on the trackpad.
Yeah.
So the questions is a map. Do they provide the map, or could you put it in?
So I put in an image.
Okay.
And then, yeah, it was just an image with Google. And, yeah. Yeah. So that, all of your responses are now saved on the Google Drive. And I can go back and have it in mine.
And can the students then go back into their own Google Drive and find the presentation?
I'm not too sure actually. I don't think so because each session is a live session. So if I were to present the same thing again, you guys will get a different code. So I don't think students can go back to the exact session, but I'm pretty sure I could download the slides and send it to the class or something.
Every student must have a Gmail account.
Yes. Yep. And like we said, we're in a 30-day free trial, so that's the only downside. But I really, really love the interactive part of this because it's you guys are having so much fun. Right?
Do you know of any other of these response type systems that give the same level of interactivity but don't require a Google account? Because I know this is like making poll anywhere seem so boring. I want to try this, but I do think that going into a classroom and expecting everyone to have a Google account ahead of time would be problematic.
You can definitely find one.
There's one that
We were testing.
there's one called Socrative. So there's a student app and a teacher app, and it's not quite as interactive as this, but you don't need any special login. And then there's something called ED Puzzle, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Puzzle.
So small ED and then capital P UZZLE.
I mean, I get why they do it because otherwise, if they if they didn't use Google to authenticate, then every student would have to have their own account for this particular website, which is equally as
No, I mean, the advantage of Google is that it does allow you to track. So you could even do, 4-credit quizzes this way in your class and have a record of everyone's grade that you can then, put into Moodle if you're using the Moodle gradebook or whatever spreadsheet you're using to collect the grades.
Yeah.
So that's both the advantage and the disadvantage of this, because it allows you to actually see each student's result. You do need some kind of authenticated sign-in for it.
And with Socrative and the Edpuzzle, they also work the same way as you put in a classroom code, and then it saves it to that. Your teachers have like sessions like this, and so it's in that classroom and it does save it to the app. But
Is Socrative SOC?
SOCRATIVE.com.
Is there any sense that Moodle or Blackboard is transitioning to this, or this is now surely down the pipe for them?
There was a, so Moodle is developed collectively, sort of open source type thing. And there is a guy who developed a plugin for Moodle that would let you do this. I think it only does free response, short answer, and text. I don't think it has no fancy drawing stuff. When they developed it, our version of Moodle wasn't compatible. Our version is now compatible. We haven't had a chance to test it. But that would be an option. And he designed it to be, I think, not only anything with an internet, a wireless internet connection, but I want to say he said it also had a text function. So you could like text your answer. That would be better. You guys were asking about one that is as robust in terms of how you do feedback. There's one called Learning Catalytics that has a similar drawing function. I know some of our faculty were really interested in it for that reason. And it's one that's set up, and this is kind of, there are two alternatives. Some of these are set up so that the instructor pays, which is the nice thing about Pearback. So, you can have your students use it for free. You might have to get a professional license where you don't. Learning Catalytics competes with some of the physical quicker systems like ones we have, where the student pays actually or you buy it as an institution. So, similar types of features, but you would have to get your students to sign up for this.
It's for Poland?
No.
it can work with any discipline, but I don't think there are any that are created specifically for like a history class.
They might have examples on the website.
Yeah.
I've been getting emails from them, and they have like teachers and they're like, "Oh, this is how I'm using Peardeck. Check it out."
But there's no reason you couldn't provide versions in German, for instance. Well, and remember, it's interactive class, so you're speaking German, they're responding to you here.
There's also, have you heard of VoiceThread at all?
I wasn't really thinking about German. Okay.
So now we're going to transition into small group sessions. So we have 4 different small groups that each of us are heading up, and so we'll just give a brief description of what those are, and then each table, you'll just move to that table to kind of have a discussion about what you're interested in.
So blended learning 101 is going to be about if you want more information on blended learning or you're totally new to it, and how Brigmar is incorporating blended learning courses, and how to start up using the blended format in your course.
The future student generation Z is going to be understanding the incoming students starting from 1995 to 2009. So these are the students who are probably sophomores and beyond who are coming into Bryn Mawr and what they're going to expect of our institution and who are they.
The iPad for productivity is sort of how to best use your iPad in everyday life and sort of syncing your devices and looking at certain apps that can manage your email or documents and stuff like that. There's a lot of different apps on these iPads, so we can explore different things.
And iPads for BMC courses is going to be for people who want to find out how they can get iPads for an academic project they want to do with their students, as well as some ideas about how to go about doing that.
So each of us are going to sit at a table and like teach this to that. So this one's fun and learning, this one's Generation Z, this one is coursework, and then that one is productivity.
All right, so what we're gonna do now is just go around and just talk about key points that were talked about in your group. So do you guys want to go first? Share what you talked about.
Sure. I think you should share your experience at your school district. That's really interesting. Kids in the struggle.
We're talking a lot about the kids in elementary schools, like how they're using it in the schools, and the challenge even with the elementary level, trying to decide on what devices, how to use them, make sure it's trained properly to use them.
Right.
It can be a great tool, but where will this be in a few years?
And how you use it is only as good as the content curation.
Yeah.
So that's my big stumbling block with these things, especially for kids, but also in higher education. You know, your quiz is only as good as its updated links, updated data, you know, whatever. And so that time, that back end time, you know, that's I think where the quality or the difference is made. And also, you know, these are kind of expected now, but they're also for many younger people. So there's no wow factor, I feel like, in higher education with these, whereas in elementary school, everything is new and shiny and great. You know, and so I feel like the next wow factor, I was saying, I watched this King Tut video with this full-size kind of iPad-looking screen with this 3D imaged, you know, King Tut thing that you can't touch in real life, that you can flip and you can see the skull fractures and you could, you know, manipulate, go closer and further. And, you know, being able to have that in your university, you know, in your classroom, seems like it has more kind of true academic value than, you know, this, which again is only as quality as the curation that can be provided.
Do you guys want to go?
Well, Elizabeth shows a lot of interesting productivity apps. So we basically went around and kind of said our frustrations with the iPad. A lot of us just use it as a note-taking tool or replacement for laptop. And Elizabeth posted Google Docs. And then we talked a little bit about accessibility issues, and she showed us how to turn on the voiceover to reach slow or fast. And then we also talked a little bit about some different apps that they've loaded on these iPads. Some for video capture and editing. Touchpass was one that's interesting. We looked at Sight, which is kind of a combination of Pinterest and Twitter, to subscribe to different communities. And last up, we were looking at Show Me, which is kind of like a whiteboard.
Right.
So it looked like a lot of interesting things for high school. What did I read out?
Thank you.
So now we have to go back and play.
Yeah. How do you talk about what you
Basically, we talked about the practicality of how faculty members can reserve and use full iPads we have for courses. You know, these are unfortunately solely for the use in classes. If you're an administrator and you want an iPad for some personal use, you can go to the help desk. So we went through some of the basics of how you get this iPad tool for teaching, and then we talked about some of the apps that can be used to create different interactive classroom exercises. And then we talked about, you know, some of the issues and difficulties in using the iPads in higher education, especially in the humanities. Right. Yeah.
One of the things that's interesting, I think you guys noticed that it was very heavily K-12, this conference. If you look at sort of adoption, you know, school districts across the country are buying these like crazy
universities aren't. And part of the speculation is at the university level, the students and the faculty are buying them, but the institution itself is not buying them and giving them to students and faculty. But there is a recognized, and I saw someone sitting with an iPad with something on it and then taking notes on a laptop. And one of the things the iPad does not let you do easily is switch between windows. And if you're doing any kind of research, you need to switch between windows.
Or type.
Well, actually, I have to say, I have a keyboard. And
But you type.
I know it's keyboard. And it's a Bluetooth.
yeah, our
No, it's actually, I don't have it. It's like,
yeah.
snaps on.
I'm not yet on the iPad
All right, so to just wrap everything up, I don't know.
I mean, you're the one who.
That's just a lovely So, yeah. So, obviously, when you integrate technology into the learning experience, it doesn't happen overnight. It does take work, but the outcomes are so incredible. You do things that you normally wouldn't be able to do in the classroom and also outside of the classroom. And this whole transition isn't to be replaced by a device, it's to just integrate it and use it in a different way. And one of the quotes that from the conference was, if you can be replaced by technology, then you should be replaced. So that's a friendly reminder that, especially at the liberal arts setting, you don't want to let go of that interaction with professors and students. It's very, very important. And I don't think Bernard wants to get rid of the professors, so don't be afraid of that. Yeah.
And then we just have our contact information.
Oh, wait. And also, if you're scared or nervous about transitioning, using technology, we have Esther and Elizabeth to help you with
These transitions.
Yeah. That's why that's what they're here for.
Good job.
Yeah.
Come.